The 2023 NBA draft is just 1 week away, and with the Hawks having the number 15 pick and 20 to 25 prospects having a case for going lottery this year, the Hawks have a plethora of options to select from if they choose to keep this pick. I'm personally in favor of the Hawks either making the selection at number 15 or trading up, as this is a range they've drafted very well at recently, taking AJ Griffin at number 16 last year, Jalen Johnson at number 20 in 2021, Kevin Huerter at number 19 in 2018, and John Collins at number 19 in 2017. However, I do have a little bit less faith in the front office this year due to Travis Schlenk stepping down earlier in this season, so it'll be interesting to see what direction the Hawks decide to go. Reports have the Hawks looking for versatile wings who can make a difference defensively as well as be a threat from the perimeter, and I agree this is the best way to approach this year's draft. Let's start with my absolutely ideal fit from this year's draft. There's a part of me that almost wishes that the Hawks run to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021 didn't mislead the front office into accelerating the Hawks timeline, because the expectations of next season will likely prevent the Hawks from realistically trading up for the prospect in this draft that I believe could be a major difference maker. I think Taylor Hendricks is a perfect fit next to Trae. He does a lot of things John Collins does well, including weak side rim protection with advanced anticipation and reactivity. He's a solid above the rim finisher and a promising lob catcher, while being an elite floor spacer with a more advanced dribble package than JC has ever shown. Hendricks showed a ton of positional versatility on both ends as well, showcasing 1-4 switch ability on the defensive end while playing small ball 5 at times. He's one of those super rare prospects who combine length and defense. He's 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan, while also being an elite shooter, given that he shot 39.4% on 4.6 3-point attempts per game and 40.9% on 130 catch and shoot 3-pointer attempts. He's not perfect by any means, as he struggles to rebound consistently and can't create much for himself, but in the very, very slight chance he's there at number 10, the Hawks absolutely need to trade Capella to the Mavericks for number 10 plus filler.
There's a steal. Lane again. Lane all the way. Oh!
There's really no way he'll be available, so let's jump into number 6 on my board of reasonably attainable prospects, CD Sissoko. At just 19 years old, Sissoko might already have the physical frame to compete defensively against NBA wings. 6'6" without shoes with a 6'10" wingspan and 8'8" standing reach means he has the potential to comfortably defend players 2 to 3 inches taller than him, while he's strong enough to resist being bullied by heavier players. He showed competence both on and off the ball defensively, playing for the G League Ignite this season. Sissoko plays aggressive physical defense, and I'm comfortable with saying he's one of the best wing defenders in his class. It's encouraging to see him hold his own in the league with grown men and former NBA players. He consistently makes promising reads off ball and offers weak side rim protection, a super necessary skill on any Trae Young team. His biggest offensive skill is definitely getting downhill in transition and detonating at the rim. You give him a slight advantage and he turns it into an instant highlight, exploding both over and through defenders. Now at this point, he doesn't create much for himself in the half court, but he was very effective at attacking after being placed in advantageous situations, such as driving closeouts and capitalizing off penetration by Scoot Henderson. That projects as a very useful skill next to 2 lead guards and Trae and DeJounte Murray. He also showed some super flashy playmaking when he attacked the rim, regularly throwing sleek wraparound passes to his big man after engaging defenders midair. I just feel like he knows basketball, and he'll consistently make the right reads and find the open man, whether he's in the middle of a spin move or contorting himself around the opposing team center. Aside of that, though, he doesn't really have much to his offensive game at this point. He's never really displayed shooting ability at any high percentage, and while his form doesn't look too bad to me, it probably should be a little faster, which could easily be fixed by removing the dip in his shot, which is a good thing the Hawks have Corey as a coach. The shooting is a concern because he hasn't shown any other reliable offensive skills, and not being able to consistently knock down shots could severely limit his offensive potential and make him trend a little bit more into an Andre Roberson rather than the OG Anunoby Jaden McDaniels he could be. It's promising that he shot 37.8% on catch and shoot 3-point attempts this season, but I'm not expecting that to translate right away, given he also shot 23% on 73 pull-up attempts in general and 64.5% from the free throw line. Despite his half-court offensive concerns, I really buy his blend of defensive potential, athleticism, and playmaking. I don't think he'll be a guy that'll ever initiate the offense, but as a secondary playmaker attacking off the probing by Trae Young, he would offer something the Hawks haven't had at the wing position since Trae was drafted. Him and Jalen Johnson together would be special.
Nice little move there by Sissoko and the finish.
What an athletic move by Sissoko.
Number 5 on my big board, I've got Dariq Whitehead. Now, let's say the Hawks theoretically did take him with the 15th pick. It would be the 3rd consecutive season the Hawks took a Duke prospect who fell into the late lottery. And it's worked pretty well for the Hawks so far, so why not go with what's worked? Whitehead came to Duke as one of the top high school players in the class. He was a consensus top 3 player, but he ended up injuring a bone in his foot before the season started at Duke. Returned 3 games into the season. He just never looked like the same athlete he was in high school. He ended up getting surgery to repair that injury after the season ended. As it turned out, his foot had never healed properly. And his situation is similar to AJ, but unlike AJ, Dariq looked like a completely different player at Duke than he did in high school. In high school, he looked like a a future number 1 option and could fry defenders in isolation, but he didn't show that same package in his college career. Despite this, he proved that he's an incredible shooter, and I think that'll translate. He shot nearly 43% from 3 this season, including 45.3% on catch and shoot opportunities. He looked like a strong shooter pretty much everywhere on the court, whether it was relocating into open space, remaining static as a spacer in the corners, or even pulling up off the dribble, shooting 36% on his pull-up threes and 40% on pull-up twos. The defense is promising as well. He's got a strong frame and was able to wall off opponents when he could beat them to the spot. Of course, he didn't have that twitch that he used to have. He also had some beautiful chase down blocks too, and he did hold up in one-on-one situations. However, the foot is such a big deal when it comes to his potential ceiling. Was his performance this season because he was playing through injury? Is there any hope for him regaining his athleticism after he recovers from his newest surgery? His lack of quickness impacted his effectiveness on both ends of the floor, struggling to get to the rim and draw contact while being exposed by quicker players on the defensive end. He shot just 43.8% at the rim, which really isn't acceptable for a guard. He only shot 1 free throw a game, only had 27 assists while turning the ball over 39 times. I think the Hawks have enough depth to take a guy who needs time to develop and recover. Derek is the type of upside pick who could pay off massively for the Hawks, and a risk well worth taking, in my opinion, given he could be a special two-way player who can score at all 3 levels if his foot is finally healthy.
To cut him off, now Whitehead. This is a big-time move and shot. Look out.
At number 4 on my big board, I've got Bilal Coulibaly. I just really enjoy prospects who contribute to winning, and Bilal being able to be an integral part of the Metropolitans 92 making the finals for the first time in their history is great for his long-term development and just overall outlook. He played a phenomenal game in their finals clinching win over the 3-time defending champs, putting up 16 points with 4 assists and was a menace defensively. He's 6'6" with a 7'2" wingspan. Let me say that one more time. 7'2" wingspan. And he combines that length with a high level of activity, grit, and defensive aggressiveness that makes him a disruptive defender at just 18 years old in the best professional league in France. He's already a switchable defender across guards and wings, averaging a steal in just 18 minutes per game. His athleticism pops off the screen, where he can rotate and defend the rim at the apex while having the strength to man up grown men. That same athleticism and verticality is probably his biggest offensive skill at this point, similar to Sissoko, but Bilal is probably the better athlete. There are a couple of plays where I swear his head is above the rim. He's a phenomenal jumper off 2 feet and finishes strong and high at the rim. He has good instincts when crashing the glass, high pointing the ball where nobody but Wembanyama could get it before slamming it down with force. He runs the floor well in transition, using his ridiculous length to beat defenders down the court. He flashed some rebounds/steal conversion skills as well by pushing the pace by himself and was capable of making the right pass in these situations as well. He has good spatial awareness, and as I mentioned with his putbacks, but he also cuts at the right time and in the right ways, which is a useful skill next to a heliocentric supernova. There's really not much else to his offense though. Although he shot 36% from 3, the shooting isn't really there. His mechanics are clean and he has a good touch, but he rarely, if ever, shoots the ball in the half court. Percentage, he only took 78 field goal attempts in the half court as of June 3rd. Per The Athletic, which is just 2.6 per game, and Sam Vecini compared his usage to Isaac Okoro, shooting 5.8 shots per 36 minutes in the half court this season for the Cavs, and that doesn't seem like the type of player to add to a Hawks squad that badly needs some offensive versatility and shooting from his front court. So what has him higher than Sissoko when they have similar tools and flaws, especially since CD is further along offensively? The biggest reason is I believe Bilal could reasonably be a top 5 to 10 player from this draft given the time and patience to develop, as his offense is a long way from being respected in the NBA. Now, can the Hawks afford to bring in another guy to develop with a young core of Jalen, AJ, and Onyeka? There are definitely some Hawks fans who wouldn't want to see the Hawks add someone who can't contribute in the next year or two, but when a prospect has a team like Coulibaly and you have the depth to give him that time, I think it's 100% worth it.
No, c'est un deux.
At number 3, I've got Kobe Buffkin. And in my evaluations, I've looked for guys who are extremely comfortable and productive attacking closeouts, spotting up, and skilled at maintaining and leveraging advantages created for them. Kobe Buffkin is the perfect combination of all 3 of these skills while being a plus defender at his position. He thrived as somewhat of a combo guard/wing at Michigan, excelling in both on-ball and most importantly off-ball situations. At 6'4" with a 6'7" wingspan, he can guard bigger than his height and was a pest defensively, regularly poking the ball away. He's one of 3 prospects with a 2% or higher block and steal percentage, as well as a 3+ defensive box plus minus. He's one of 8 major prospects to average at least 1.2 steals and a half a block per game this season per The Athletic. He has real shot blocking skills as a 6'4" guard, sliding over as a low man to not only deter shots at the rim, but block both guards and bigs alike from behind and straight up at the rim. Not only is he a defensive playmaker with lockdown potential, he was also one of 4 prospects to shoot higher than 70% of the rim, 40% in the paint, 35% from mid-range, and 30% from 3. He's able to get to the rim at will with less than 25% of his rim attempts being assisted. He also projects as a solid mid-range scorer with midi attempts accounting for more than 20% of his total attempts while shooting higher than 40%, a feat that was only matched by only 6 other prospects, per NBA Draft Watch on Twitter. Y'all should follow him, by the way. Making 64% of your layups as a 6'4 guard is wild, and he exploited angles to make difficult layups over shot blockers with regularity. He profiles as a capable catch-and-shoot player, shooting 37% on around 3 catch-and-shoot attempts per game this season, while also showcasing pull-up upside shooting, shooting 32.3% on pull-up threes. He displayed some manipulation skills out of pick and roll and made elite cross-court passes while attacking downhill, which gives me hope he could be a plus playmaker. Buffkin reminds me a lot of Derek White, and he has the potential to grow into the exact archetype, which the Hawks desperately need on both ends of the floor. Even with the addition of DeJounte, the offense has suffered with Trae off the floor, and Buffkin's strong rim finishing, reliable shooting, and feel for the game could help bolster that unit's effectiveness while not compromising the defense. He's missing an effective ISO game and doesn't create exceptionally well for himself in half-court situations, which makes a simplified role in Atlanta a perfect fit for him. He needs to get stronger for sure, but I truly could see him being a valuable playoff guy for the Hawks.
Buffkin going up high. Buffkin. Fumble it. Takes his shot and hits!
At number 2 on my board, I've got Derek Lively. And to be honest, I don't really see a reason for the Hawks to try and develop another center unless they're trading Clint Capella, which in that case likely should absolutely be the pick. We haven't seen many bigs with this level of rim protection and potential playmaking upside. The list is probably Embiid, Cat, and that's probably it. Maybe Bam's up there as well, but to be honest, I can't remember how much he had the ball in his hands in college. So if someone does, please let me know because I can't remember. Standing 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan, Lively brings the ideal build for a center on a team with such an undersized guard. With that insane frame, he has an incredible catch radius and threw down plenty of lobs at Duke this year. Considered by many as the top recruit in the country coming into college, he wasn't the offensive factor he was billed to be, and it's much more of a play finisher rather than someone who can create in the post or for himself. He would have an immediate impact on the defensive end, averaging 3 blocks in 25 minutes per game in the last 18 games he played. He had some incredible defensive metrics. Team shot 45.6% on the rim with him on the court, as opposed to 54.2% when he was off, which is a comparable rim deterrence to Gobert and Zubac in the NBA this season. Duke was 8.2 possessions better with him on defense and won his minutes by 12 points per 100 possessions with him on versus 3.3 points with him off. He's not just a shot blocker either, displaying some mobility containing the pick and roll when hedging or dropping. He showcased some promising playmaking and DHO ability, averaging 3.2 assists per 100 possessions with only 2 turnovers. We've seen big men who act as playmaking hubs unlock NBA offense in recent years. Think of Jokic, Sabonis, and Bam, and the potential for Lively and Onyeka to both be great defenders who can also make smart reads is so exciting to think about. However, though, limited isn't a strong enough word to describe the extent of Derek's offensive game at this point. I mean, Hawks fans will know Capella smoked a bunch of bunnies this year, but he had a good amount of hooks fall off of offensive rebounds or just bailing out the Hawks at the end of the shot clock. It's not likely Lively could replicate that. Similar to Capella, he doesn't do much out of the short roll, but, he has a lot more time to grow in that area. He's foul prone and not necessarily a strong rebounder either. He definitely needs to get stronger, which makes the fit with Onyeka murky as he has those same struggles. The shooting looks good on workouts, but we didn't see it in college, so I'm trying not to be swayed too much by it. But it could be an interesting wrinkle in his game down the line, like a Brook Lopez, but hopefully much earlier. Now, ESPN has reported the Hawks have interest in Lively, and if we move on from Capella, I think he absolutely should be the pick.
Going off the leg, I should say. 3 on the clock. And Lively with his 3rd block already.
And at number 1, I have Cason Wallace. Now, he's only 6'3", but he plays so much bigger than that with his 6'8" wingspan. He might be the best point of attack defender in his class, while being an elite off-ball defender and overall defensive playmaker, just terrorizing any and every player who's unlucky enough to be matched up against him. You cannot pass the ball with any level of carelessness around Wallace, who regularly jumped the passing lanes all around the court. I believe in his all-defensive potential because he can navigate screens with ease, has the strength to push guys off their spots, and can switch across anyone in the backcourt and probably some wings as well. He's got textbook footwork, sliding his feet to stay in front of drivers, and only opening his hips when absolutely necessary. He averaged 2 steals per game, blowing up DHO actions, and pick and rolls all by himself. His technique reminds me a lot of Davion Mitchell, who's also super strong, but Cason's got length that Off-Night just doesn't have with his 6'8" wingspan. Just like Buffkin, Cason was one of 4 prospects to shoot higher than 70% of the rim, 40% in the paint, 35% from the mid-range, and 30% from 3, while also generating the majority of his rim attempts on his own, with less than 25% of his rim attempts being assisted. However, Cason also accounted for more than 25% of Kentucky's assists and less than 20% of the turnovers, making him the only prospect to be this efficient of a scorer at all 3 levels while being a high-level playmaker. Off the ball, Cason shot 35% on catch-and-shoot threes, He was great at relocating and attacking closeouts. He often put the defenses in tough positions because he makes such great decisions with the ball. And once he gets downhill, he can either reach deep into his bag of tough layups or kick it out to the open guys the defense tries to scramble and recover. He shot 39% on floaters and 43.9% on pull-up middies. So essentially, he's a relentless perimeter defender who just so happens to also be a 3-level scorer with an incredibly impressive assist to turnover ratio, making him an absolutely phenomenal potential fit in Atlanta. Now, he probably isn't ready to be an initiator at this point and is best suited next to a guard who can put him in positions to succeed due to his limited ISO / first step, which makes it a no-brainer to slot him next to Trae or DeJounte in the backcourt for stretches. His height is the only real knock I have, as ideally you'd have more height around Rayford, and we've seen gifted defenders get exposed in the playoffs like Drew Holiday this year, just due to a lack of size, but I cannot dismiss the defensive skills and offensive tools that make him, without a doubt, the best reasonable pick for the Hawks in this draft class.
Just as cool. A cold-blooded three-pointer from Cason Wallace.
There are a lot of guys that consider this range for the Hawks, including Maxwell Lewis and G.G. Jackson, Jet Howard and Jordan Hawkins, Leonard Miller and Ray Rupert, and Chris Murray, but ultimately all these guys just had too many questions for me. Historically, the Hawks have always pretty much drafted best player available, but wing depth is definitely the position of need. With Brooklyn and Indiana looking to consolidate their late lottery picks, plus their interest in John Collins, as well as Dallas potentially wanting to add a veteran big like Capella, the Hawks have a ton of options in how they approach this year's draft. If you want more comprehensive breakdowns and profiles for these guys, I highly recommend you check out Hoop Intellect and Adam Spinella on YouTube, and I'll link their channels in the description. Let me know what you think the Hawks should do this year in the comments below, and please subscribe. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and keep an eye out for my next video dropping later this week. Y'all be safe.